This is News Now. I am Perpetua Fasamipita. President Muhammadu Buhari on Friday appealed to members of the National Assembly to desist from approving the budget for government-owned enterprises without undergoing proper protocols. The 20.51 trillion budget, dubbed Budget of Fiscal Consolidation and Transition, was presented by the President and is the last he will present before his tenure elapses. The President had earlier in the year lamented that the provisions made for about 10,733 projects had been reduced, while 6,576 new projects were introduced into the budget by the National Assembly. He also stated the inclusion of the new provisions totaling 36.59 billion naira for National Assembly's projects in the service-wide vote negates the principles of separation of powers and financial autonomy of the different arms of government. Buhari warned that appropriation of GOEs in the 2023 budget must be returned to the executive after due approval by the relevant committees. Similarly, President Muhammadu Buhari has also directed the nation's service chiefs to replicate the kinetic and non-kinetic methods deployed in quelling the violence in the northeast nationwide. Buhari gave this directive at the passing out parade and commissioning ceremony of cadets of 69 regular corps, Army, Navy and Air Force of the Nigerian Defense Academy, NDA. According to the President, although the military had recorded victories in the conflict inherited from past administrations, especially in the northeast, the security challenges had evolved and assumed other dimensions in some areas. Buhari charged the military to continue to safeguard the economic and military capability of the nation by not allowing terrorists and insurgents to destroy the investments in key national infrastructures. Vice President OSINBAJO on Thursday called on government at all levels to plant cities in the country as well as growing urban centers to meet the needs of the growing population. OSINBAJO made a call in his address at the Archibald NIA InfoDrac conference organized by the Nigerian Institute of Architecture NIA in Abuja. The Vice President stressed the need to develop cities and urban centers that are habitable and sustainable with life. In her remarks, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, said the government had created several innovative approaches to financing and developing infrastructure projects by raising funds and resources and deploying them in key areas of concern. Meanwhile, the Senate President, Ahmad Lawan, has lamented at the spate of oil theft in Nigeria, describing perpetrators as the country's biggest enemies. The lawmaker said this on Friday during the presentation of the 2023 budget proposal at the National Assembly. The President of the Senate strongly feels it is necessary to stop the thieves immediately so that efforts to provide infrastructure and diversification of the economy would both not be thwarted. The Court of Appeal, Abuja, has ordered members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, to resume work with immediate effect. The appellate court gave the order in a ruling on an application by the ASUU seeking permission for it to appeal against the order of the National Industrial Court, which asked the striking lecturers to resume duty. The court also granted ASUU conditional leave to appeal the order of the Industrial Court, while insisting that ASUU must obey the order of the lower court with effect from today, October 7. The three-man panel led by Justice Haman Baruka said for ASUU to file its notice of appeal within 7 days, it must show evidence that its members have resumed work immediately. The panel held that failure to adhere to the order will make the appeal incompetent before Court of Appeal. The senior pastor, Christ Living Spring Global, Pastor Wole Oladunyo, has called on Nigerians to intervene in the ongoing crisis between the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, and the federal government. The senior pastor Clam made the appeal at a media briefing on the inauguration of a back-to-school intervention fund to settle the demands of ASUU. IBrandTV senior reporter IBoJE has the details.
For over 8 months still running, Nigerian universities have been shut down following the crisis between ASUU and the federal government, a situation the senior pastor Christ Living Spring Apostolic Ministries said demands the intervention of Nigerians. The pastor, while lamenting the negative impact of the strike, said is not interested in the blame games between ASUU and the federal government, but to put in place a one-off back-to-school intervention fund that will settle the issue of ASUU and the federal government.
The time has come for well-meaning Nigerians at home and abroad to show concern for the plight of the students whose future is being threatened by the continuous closure of universities and the lecturers who have been unable to practice their cherished profession. I am pleased to announce the setting up of a special purpose vehicle tagged Back to School Intervention Fund, a non-political, non-partisan platform designed to mobilize funds to support the federal government and ASUU in resolving the problems bedeviling the education sector. We have decided to pioneer the setting of the Back to School Intervention Fund as a way of complementing government's efforts. The funds will not be warehoused by CLAM. No, not at all. I will not be a signatory, not at all. A dedicated account to be agreed upon by the trustees of the fund will be opened. Also, the modalities for the administration and disbursement of the fund will be collectively agreed upon by the fund managers, who will be reputable individuals and organizations in the country. We are still consulting and fine-tuning the operational modalities of the fund. As more details emerge, we will definitely inform you.
The senior pastor of CLAN said the non-political and non-partisan platform is designed to mobilize funds for the federal government and ASUU to resolve the problems bedeviling the education sector. On how the funds will be managed, the man of God said the fund, which is going to be contributed by well-meaning Nigerians, will be managed by reputable individuals and organizations in the country. The clergyman and chairman board of trustees of a 100% tuition-free school in Akute area of Bega in Lagos State, pioneered by Dr. Victor Bashola, also used the opportunity to introduce pupils from the school.
Most brains that we have produced, other countries have harvested them. It's extremely very pathetic, and others are still living even today. So, human capital development is germane to this nation or to the development of any nation. So we should stop the blame game. It is time for action and sincere intervention by all those who truly love Nigeria. For the advisors of doubt, this is not a personal project of this ministry CLAM. We are just spearheading it. We will be working with other reputable people-focused organizations to make this happen. This is just the way we are in CLAM. We are a human development institution committed to the welfare and all-round development of the people. Details and modalities of how the funds will be administered and disbursed will be jointly agreed upon by the trustees of the fund, just like I've said, whose names will be announced once the current round of consultations and discussions with key stakeholders are concluded.
He, however, said the education of the country should be given the necessary attention. IBrandTV reporting for IBrandTV News.
As the world celebrates World Teachers' Day, a cross-section of teachers were trained on the project I Care on how to prevent child abuse in teenage and preteen children in schools. The facilitator of the training, FUNDAWAZI Foundation, took out time to explain the purpose of the special training for teachers as the participants expressed pleasure to have taken part in the training.
First thing is to build the child, to build a strong, resilient child who can imbibe the right moral values, who can recognize and distinguish good from bad. Because so much is being thrown at the children these days. Information, good and bad, is just a touch of a button away. And so every child is at risk. And the onus is on the community. The onus is on definitely the community, the family being the pivotal unit of the community. The onus is on the family, on the parents, on the community around. the educators have an important role to play because of the privilege that they have of spending such lengths of time with the child in the proportion of a day that a child spends in school and the proportion of a whole school year that the child spends in school.
Oftentimes we only say that, oh, child abuse, oh, the abuser is this, is that, but how much of education are we giving to our children as to what they can do or how they can identify to know that, oh, okay, for instance, sexual abuse, if a child is going to be sexually abused, you know, the perpetrator would lure the child, you know, want to maybe give gifts, you know, take the child to maybe a secluded place, put the child on their legs or something. How much of information does the child also have in terms of, oh, if somebody touches you in your area, maybe for a girl, your breasts, or touches you, you know, in a way that is not appropriate, that you should speak up and tell the person to stop, say no, or you know, walk up to a teacher or walk up to an adult to say that, oh, this person did this. So the child knows what to do.
The governor has been trying. He's a wonderful governor. For the education is concerned, he has been doing his best for the teachers, for the students, new millennium buildings, infrastructure, in terms of computer to the school, to the students, to teachers training. So it's been wonderful. And in terms of security, we've been trying in Lagos State. I can't frame my work to Nigeria. We all know what is happening in the country, but to Lagos State, the government is superb.